Okay. Hi, people. All right. Let's talk about the two men's games this week. Um, the win over Rutgers and the win over Northwestern before we get to the Kirk presser about the new recruits coming in the fall and what the future, what the past looks like and what the future looks like for Iowa Hawkeye football. Okay, so let's get started with Rutgers. Iowa wins 93-82 against Rutgers against a very, very good, one of the best defensive teams in America. Um, I think nobody has scored more than 67 points, I believe, is what the broadcaster said the other night this season against Rutgers, except for Iowa. Um, Iowa scored 76, I believe, in their previous win over Rutgers. So Iowa was the only team to do it, and they did it twice. But Iowa averages 82 points a game. So, or 80, was it 81? It might be 81%. Okay, 81% a game. So, hmm, I still don't know what their defense percentage is per game. That would be nice to know. I have to look that up. Maybe somebody who's watching can look that up for me and put it in the comments. Um, it's something that Iowa doesn't publish. Um, I'm on their website and um, I go there to get all my stats and stuff, and they're not publishing what their defense is per game. So they're not proud of it because Iowa's defense seems to lack a little bit. Um, so in Iowa's two previous games, they lost against Michigan State and Ohio State because they had the tendency to turn the ball over more, weren't shooting their free throws, weren't shooting 3 pointers, and they could have won those two games if they just did marginally better. One more, as you know, one more 3 pointer, I believe, in the Ohio State game would have won it. Or was that the Michigan State game? I believe it was the Michigan State game. One more 3 pointer would have won it because, as you know, we took two 3 point shots at the end of the game, which would have given us the victory. A 2 point shot would have sent the game to overtime. Okay. I don't remember how bad the free throw shooting was, but we did talk about this on the previous broadcast. It was awful, the free throw shooting. However, Iowa redeems itself in the game against Rutgers. Um, they shoot 85%, which is 29 of 34 shooting for free throws. That's getting the job done, guys. That's getting it done. And they redeemed themselves on the 3 point shots. They shot 50%, 12 of 24, which is really good. 50%. Iowa would win every game probably if they shot 50% every game in 3 point shoots. And in that game, Murray had one of his better games. Murray had not really. Anyway, he showed up for 24 points and 6 assists. No, six, not 6 assists, 6 rebounds. I would like to see Murray increase that rebounds, to 8 to 10 more, 8 to 10. Euless had one of his better games after being much maligned and everybody yelling for him to get him out of the ball game and everything. And he's causing way too many turnovers. But and in this particular game, he did. He was he did cause a few turnovers, and but he came to light in the second half. He came out with vengeance and scored 16 points for the his final game. And so, I mean, for the final game, I mean, the final second half of the game, he scored 16 points. So that's pretty good for Euless. That's like you want to keep him around when he does that. He just like was unconsciously on fire that game. Um, Perkins scored about what I expect him to, 11 points. Like I said, if we can get 10 to 12 points out of him a game, he's doing his job, and he got 11. Sanford only had 7 this game, but he's so much, as we saw in last night's game against Northwestern, he is so capable of going off on opponents and just when he's hot. And we'll talk about his huge game against Northwestern later. But I think the biggest thing is PMAC returns to the game. He comes back. Um, he hits a three shortly after he gets in the game. He comes into a standing ovation, which it actually looked like he waved back to the crowd, or maybe he was waving to his mom. I don't know, in the audience, but it looked like after the standing ovation, he turned around, grinned, and waved. He turned around to his back and waved. So I'm not sure if he was waving to um, fans or his mom, but he was good to be in the game. And he hit that, but he hit 3 of 3 on 3 pointers. So he basically, I think he played about 13 minutes the entire game. So he made a huge impact on his first game back. And we would like to see him get more and more minutes and more impact in the game. And Josh Dix had one. For a freshman, he had one of his better games. You know, honestly, I don't mind Dix being in the game. He seems to be automatic from the 3 point line. Um, he's got 8 points. It might. I don't know. His defense seems to be good. It's better than some of Brand's previous teams. But he seems to be working hard on defense, and so having Josh Dix in there, I'm not wrong with that at all. I'd like to see him increase his minutes, but I don't know where he would take the minutes from, especially since PMAC is back now in the game. Iowa, yeah, we talked about that. So let's move on because I want to get to the football talk. And so let's move on to the Iowa Northwestern game where Iowa wins 86-70. I honestly did not see that happening, guys. I saw the win. It's predicted. It's on previous podcast. I said we would win the game. Uh, I just didn't think we'd win at 86-70. I thought it'd be more like 70-66, something like that. Coming down to a tight game. Northwestern has a real stingy defense. Um, and I think we saw that last night. They force a lot of turnovers. And I think they lead the conference in turnover margin. Um, however, I wanted to point out that um, Iowa led them in turnover margin. Northwestern with 14 turnovers and Iowa with 11. Iowa had 8 at the break at halftime, so that means they only had three turnovers the second half. So Iowa took better care of the ball. And really, for most of the first half, it was Northwestern controlling the pace of the game. They did control the pace, and there's Iowa had a hard time breaking anything, anything that Northwestern was throwing at them. They had a hard time finding open shots. Um, I think the bright spot in the first half was Philip Rabacha. He had 20 points for the game, and he just worked hard. He just went inside and worked hard, but he did get into early foul trouble, and so he probably sat the last 5 or 6 minutes of the second half. Um, Chris Murray had 16 points with 2 assists, and he, by the way, he had four turnovers in that game out of the 11, and Philip Rabacha had 3 turnovers in that out of that game. And so, and interesting enough, I saw on Facebook last night, Yaron Ulis only had 4 points last night, and he had 2 assists. But interesting enough, everybody was screaming for Ulis to get out of the game, bench him. He was turning the ball over too much. He's only credited with 1 turnover. I thought he was credited with 2 turnovers, but that turnover went to Perkins. I later found out that they gave that turnover to Perkins. Um, it was a bad pass by Perkins, so that wasn't Ulis's fault. Okay. But Perkins had 12 points. Again, this is where I expect Perkins to be, the 10 to 12 point range. But he needs more assists. He had 0 assists in this game. Come on, guys. Our guards, Ulis and Perkins, they need more assists. 2 assists between our two guards is not enough. They need to get more because that's just their job. Their job is to um, find the open person, get the ball to the shooters, get the ball to whoever's going to score. And so that was that's just not right. Okay, CMAC had 3 assists with 11 points. So when CMAC is playing guard, guard. He is. He got some assists. He got 3 assists last night. And he's oh my god, I think he had a logo three. People were mentioning how Caitlin Clark the other night in her game um hit hit one from the arena, not the logo in the center, but the off to the side. The logo, I can't remember what they call that logo. But Caitlin Clark hit that one from there. Hit one a three. I believe if you go back and look at tape, CMAC also hit one from that exact same spot, so they can compare notes. But yeah, and that's what we expect from CMAC. We're getting what we need from him. And so Sanford had 20 last night. He was just unconscious, and I love the way when he knew that that guy was in his face at the end toward the, maybe there was 4 or 5 minutes left in the game, maybe less, maybe three. He goes up for a three. He calmly hits the three going in the rim while he's getting fouled and gets laid flat on his back as he's shooting it. I think in the news conference he said that he didn't even see the rim when he shot that ball because the guy in his face, he couldn't see it, and then he was falling down to the ground when he got fouled. So he goes in and he's getting ready to do the N1 on the 3-point shot. He already made the three. And of course, this time, Chris Collins, the Northwestern coach, he actually loses his cool. But we don't know that because we're in a commercial break and we're extended commercial break. They have to come, the announcers have to come back and tell us afterwards what's going on, that I was getting ready to go and shoot two more free throws for the the anyway. I can't. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm getting old, guys. I'm getting old and feeble. But anyway, for the penalty, so he shoots the two shots first, scores them both. So he scores 6 consecutive points, 3, 1. I mean 2, and then 1. Then he gets the other one. He gets his free throw for the foul that he was fouled on. So he scores. So he has a 6-point trip down the thing, which that by that time I think that put Iowa up considerably. I think 7 points, 8 points, somewhere in there. Pretty much, or maybe more, not 9 points. So he's doing a thing again. But the thing I think that stands out for Sanford, not only was he scoring guys and he's hitting those threes, he had 5 assists last night. 5 assists. And he had the highest plus minus of the night. He had a plus 18 while he was in the game. Okay. And just so you know, PMAC did play last night. He only had one free throw that went in. He missed one and made one. He honestly did not look like himself last night in the game. He may have reverted back a little bit. I don't know. Only he knows that for sure. But I know that after he missed that free throw, he came out of the game and um, his dad was talking to him, and he had his back to his dad, and he walked out into the locker room. I don't know what happened, why he went to the locker room. Okay, nobody explained why he went to the locker room that I know of, but he came back probably within a couple of minutes, so maybe he just had to use the restroom. Um, but he didn't play the rest of the game, and I don't know why. If anybody knows the answer to that question, please put it in the comments, and we'll be happy to talk about that. I'd be curious what his dad said to him and why he went off to the locker room but came back. Okay. Josh Dix. Okay. His previous game, he had a pretty good game. Last night, he only hit for 2, and I believe it was I think it was a nice driving 2. I think he could show that he doesn't only sit back behind the line and pop them. And he also had 1 assist in the game. And so, we did talk about the turnovers already, how Northwestern had 14, Iowa had 11, and um, Iowa had 10 for 21 on the 3-point line for 47%, 18 for 22 at the free throw line for 81%. Northwestern was really bad shooting 3-pointers last night. 4 for 17 for 23%, but their free throw wasn't that bad. 82% for 12 for 14. They just didn't get to the free throw line enough, but that's Iowa. Everybody knows that Iowa men get to the line more than their opponents make, and so last night Iowa made 18 free throws. Their opponent got to the free throw line 14 times, so that holds true. Um, at first, the referees weren't calling much in this game at all, and then when they did start calling it, it seemed like they were calling everything against Iowa. But the thing that struck out to me is when you play the kind of defense that Northwestern does, it seems like they're kind of hand checking and grabbing and holding and pushing and elbowing, and you see a lot of that, but it didn't get called. And Iowa got away with a little bit of it too, but for the most part, Iowa got called for those. So you know, anyhow, all right. Okay, we're gonna put a bow on those two games. Iowa plays Illinois next, which is 7-4, second place in the Big Ten. Iowa is on the current 4 game since they lost those two. They on a 4 game. Guys, I should have had this planned out better, I guess. They're on a 4 game run right now where they are facing the top 4 teams in the league record wise. Okay, first they had Rutgers, which was tied for second place with Northwestern. After we beat Rutgers, Northwestern became the lone second place team. Second place team. So then we took on the second place Northwestern team. They are now tied for third with Rutgers because Illinois had won their game last night and jumped to 7-4 and into second place. Okay, so there's 3 of the top 4 teams, and then of course we go on the road to Purdue, which is going to be a tall task. They're 10-1 in the conference, and it's going to be tough. I'm not saying that we can't beat Purdue. We beat them in the championship game last year. We just gotta, hold Zach Z Edie, and I don't know how because it seems like they call a lot of fouls against the people trying to go up against Zach Edey. But no, they don't call them on him. It seems like they don't. It doesn't seem like he gets anything called from the games that I've watched. Now, whether that's true consistently in every game, I don't know. But first up is Illinois. Illinois is coming back. I think they've won 7 of 8 games now, or something like that, or 6 of 7 games. They had a rough stretch there for a while, but they seemed to righted the ship. They made some changes in the starting lineup, and um, but they could have been beat last night by Nebraska. Nebraska had their chances, and Nebraska filtered it away at the end of the game, and Illinois ends up winning that game last night. But we also know from the beginning of the season, Nebraska is no pushover. Even if they're um, only have 2, I think they have 3 wins in conference, and then 13th place, right above 1 win Minnesota. So yeah, so that's our 4 game stretch with the top 4 teams in the league. We're 2-2. Um, you know, but these next 2 are going to be tougher than the previous 2. They really will be. But I think we can beat Illinois at home. If the crowd shows up, it's sold out. And let's hope it's not sold out because all the Illinois fans bought up the tickets. Because usually when that game is sold out in Iowa City, it's because the Illinois fans bought up the tickets, the remaining tickets. And so, all right, let's get to the news of the day. Kirk Ferentz holds a press conference. The first part of the conference is he talks about, and questions him and Tyler Barnes, answer questions and talk about the recruiting process and everything, and what they think of all the recruits coming in. I don't have all that list of who all they signed. It's very confusing. Not everybody sent back their signed letter of intent today. So they don't have everybody yet back. But it sounds like they've got 34, no, 44. I think they've got 44 recruits coming in that are either transfer portal, um, walk-ons, or high school recruits. and so this is one of their largest classes that they've had in a while. I believe they said they got 8 or 9 people from the transfer portal, or maybe it was more than that, which is more than they've ever done before. But their goal is still to recruit mainly high school. They feel like a sustainable program is building your program through high school recruits, and I have to agree with that. The transfer portal is to fill some gaps that you need filled right away, that your high school kids aren't ready to take over the spot yet. They're not ready, or you got some injuries or something. And but Iowa went heavy this year because they have a lot of needs. One of the things they were doing to set up the news that was coming. Um, One of the things they said was they have to look at that they admitted that the offense was bad, and how they said it was it Jimmy's and Joe's or X's and O's? And they said a little bit of both. And one of the ways that Kirk went into, he did say that he felt um, that their record over the last since 2015, they're only one of 5 teams uh, with 8 or more wins per season. Um, Only 2 of them, I believe it's Michigan and Ohio State, are ahead of them in the Big Ten. So they're third in the Big Ten in 8 win seasons or plus since 2015. And like I said, was this was all a setup to what I knew was coming, the announcement that he was going to make at the end. And so so he said it was a little bit of both, but I think he really blamed it on Jimmy's and Joe's more than X's and O's. Um, he felt that the old line was not good enough this year, which everybody knew that the old line didn't get the job done, and he believes that the rest of the offense um, runs off of the O line. The running game, the passing game, and everything. Which is true. If the O line can't block and create a hole for the runner can't run. Iowa runs usually more. I mean, they always say Iowa's a run first team, pass second team, but I think they're pretty close to balanced running, passing. Um, but Iowa needs to have successful running game. Anybody needs a successful running game. You just can't pass it the entire game. Okay. Um, but um, so that's where the O line came in. He felt that the coaching was good on the O line. He felt that they were improving, um, but there was a lot of injuries. There's a lot of people who were expected to play who didn't play. Um, they didn't. So he felt that there was a lot of people who weren't really physically ready that they had to put in. With he didn't name names, and so then he went on to how the wide receiver things started getting bad when they had some people who couldn't practice in the spring for wide receivers, and and after spring practice was over, they lost what he said was their best um, to the transfer portal, who was their best wide receiver. And so, of course, that was Charlie Jones that he was referring to. Brody Breck wasn't able to practice much in the spring because of baseball, and then he got injured, so he couldn't work all summer with the team. Said he didn't get his first real workout with the team until the first the game week. So that's where Brody Breck was, which is why we didn't see a lot of him. And of course, with Keegan being what not Keegan, yeah, Keegan Johnson, the other wide receiver who eventually transferred, he said that left the workload on. Oh, and I believe Ragini was out at the beginning of the season too. So the workload, he said, went to Sam Laporta and Arlen Bruce. Um, the sad thing about it is I think Arlen Bruce could have helped the team more than he was able to. Um, I know that frustration that he ran some routes and stuff that he was wide open, and he was supposed to be our Mr. Everything. He was supposed to be, he's supposed to be able to run the ball, catch the ball, and if they had to put him in at quarterback or at least in the shotgun, the Wildcat, and so things didn't work out with Arlen, and so Arlen and Keegan are both gone now, and so what do we have left for the wide receivers? We got Regini coming back. We have our Lachey coming back in this season, who proved himself very worthy of being the next tight end star at Iowa to continue our tight end U. Laporta is sure to go in the draft round, get drafted in the NFL, and continue our legacy there. Lachey is the next one in line. But Eric All from Michigan, who I just saw some clips of him against Iowa in the Big Ten title game last year. Holy cow, that guy can catch the ball, and he's a big guy. Iowa had a hard time bringing him down, and he scored a couple touchdowns on Iowa. Um, so if you watch the any of the BTN stuff, BTN was showing clips of Eric All, and all of them. It seemed like most of the clips were against Iowa. Um, and so he was absolute beast in that Iowa Big Ten game against Iowa. And so where was it? Oh, going with that. Oh yeah. So that's where we're going to start with our receiving corps next year. It's going to be Lachey, All, and Rehagini. Um, okay. Also, Kirk felt that their best recruiting job was bringing Rahagini back, Joe Evans back, and who's the other one? Okay, there was a third one. Getting those guys to come back and play their COVID year was both Kirk and Tyler agreed that that was their three best recruits this year because you can't replace their experience, their knowledge, their play, what they've done, and so um, having them three come back this year is going to be huge, and it will be, and hopefully they'll show some good leadership next year because Kirk also felt that the success from the previous teams is that there was always leadership at every given position that was able to take over and just be outstanding leaders, and he's going to need that next year. Next year from he's going to need some new leaders to step up. Jack Campbell won't be there. Riley Moss won't be there. Kayvon Merriweather won't be there. And so the leader, I still believe, Nate's going to have some kind of a role, even though he won't be quarterbacking. He'll have some kind of a role. So I think he's a leader that everybody on the team respects still. Um, Kind of help Caden transition into a leader that he needs to be. Um, Caden had an Cade, I mean, Cade McNamara, our future quarterback, had a nice interview on BTN today, talking about his recruitment to Iowa and why he wants to be at Iowa. And it's pretty good, guys. And he's very smart and very how do I want to say it, savvy. He was able to dodge a couple of questions that they set him up for, and he didn't bite. He didn't bite into it at all. He would like to see Iowa get to the Big West title game next year, and he would love to play against Michigan in the Big Ten. BTN would love to have Michigan in that game next year. I think they're rooting for an Iowa Michigan big title game next year. I think everybody is. They would love to see Cade and Eric all play against their old team. And I wouldn't mind having another crack at him after losing to him 2 years in a row. But other than that, we don't have them on our game roster next year. And so Iowa finishes seventh in the Big Ten. Try to say this in order the best I can. Ohio State finished first. Penn State second. Michigan was either third or fourth, and Michigan State was either third or fourth. Fifth place goes to Nebraska. Nebraska's bringing in 41 players, I believe they said. Looks like Nebraska's gearing up to be going for the West title in the first year. First year of the new coach. He's made a lot of changes, and so the next one was Illinois, which with Brett Bielema and some of the things Illinois did, they're going to be the shiny new toy after what they did this past year. on rebounding, and so they're the shiny new toy on the block, and recruits like the shiny new toy. Okay, and then Iowa finished seventh in the Big Ten and 40th nationally. Honestly, guys, I think the last couple seasons they finished in the 20s nationally, and so to me, this has to be a huge drop in recruiting. Um, so but Iowa has a way of bringing these guys in, showing them the Iowa way, and do making them into the Iowa mold, Iowa culture, and turning these guys into NFL caliber stars. They find the guys that want to work hard, don't mind paying their first year or two in college before they earn their scholarship. Um, but they work hard and they want to be a Hawkeye. They want to be there and they don't mind the hard work that goes into it. Okay. All right. And so anyway, that being said, Kirk talked about all that, and he talked about the good things that happened last year and how they, with they're in good shape with their kicker and their punter coming back. Um, and so, but he set all that up for what you knew was coming. Kirk said, and let's get the quote. Let's get the quote. Okay, let's get it correctly quoted. So it, um, quote Kirk. I anticipate no changes in our staff moving forward. I think we have a terrific staff. Quote Kirk Ferentz. So everybody wanted to see changes. He already said that he felt that the O line was being well coached with technique and stuff. That the guys just weren't. They were improving, but they weren't picking it up. Basically, is what he said. Um, which is why they've recruited some O line people to come in this year. Okay. Um, is that surprise? Not to me. I was one of the few that that didn't get over excited about any changes coming because I mean, I was okay if changes came. I was okay if changes didn't come because I felt more than anything changes weren't coming. But that doesn't mean the way he worded it doesn't mean that it can't still happen. But it means he's not firing anybody, guys. If any changes are coming, it's going to be because these guys get offered position and leave on their own accord, which means Brian's back as offensive coordinator, even unless he gets offered an NFL spot that he can't turned down. So the rumors about him and his wife in the Boston area looking for homes must be false. It doesn't mean that it still might not happen. It still could. But right now, Brian Ferentz is still the offensive coordinator. He's coming back. Um, and so that's the way it is. Both Kirk and Barta said that they've had talks with Brian. They've talked to each other. Kirk has acknowledged that the offense didn't get it done. 17 points a game is not enough. They need more. But they're going to start discussing not really a new scheme because he said that he didn't. He said the scheme might change a little bit, but if it did, we probably wouldn't notice much or we wouldn't see much of a difference. Um, but they're going to start Monday. The coaches are going to get together, start working on a plan to fix the offensive problems and any other issues they think they need to change and what it's going to take to change the program, to get the program in the right direction. He pointed out that they've had other down years where the following year they came back and they bounced right back in a good way. In a good way, and he said that when they had their 11-win season, nobody seemed to be complaining. They had a 12-win season, nobody seemed to be complaining, and that the offense wasn't doing much then either. It wasn't, like ranked up in the upper 30s or anything. It was always down low in the hundreds. And so, but you guys can find this if you want to watch for yourself everything that Kirk and Barta had to say today and Tyler Barnes had to say today. I urge you to go to YouTube. Oh, you're already on YouTube. I just urge you to search it and find it for yourself. What he said. There's a lot of meat there. Chad Lassico said that to him it was uninspired as far as he was concerned because I think he's mad because he was rooting for change and felt change was coming, and he was actually told from somebody inside that change was coming. Our own coach Hack was told from somebody on the inside that change was coming, but it didn't happen. Coach Hack is happy. I just want you guys to know that Coach Hack is very happy. Jason is very happy that things are going to remain status quo because he and also Paul, Jack's Florida Hawkeye, also I feel confident in saying that they both felt like the play calling from Brian was never the issue. There were a lot of other factors involved, and and this season, Brian is going to have a chance to prove himself. He really is. He's going to have a chance I'm going to call it redeem himself because one thing he did say before the bowl game, Brian said was that he felt that he did the best with what he had to work with. That's just paraphrasing what he had, meaning that the personnel, and basically Kirk went on board and said today it was personnel. Jimmy, as he called it, Jimmy's and Joe's. The personnel's. Okay, the personnel's is what they felt the issue was, basically, along with some X's and O's, because we all saw that this year there was some questionable play calling, but as Jason will tell you, that some of that play calling was not as questionable as we think. It was to set up another play later in the game, or just to get the ball in a better position to punt it away or something. Because a lot of times they weren't, But in my opinion, if you're going to give the ball to somebody short of the line to gain in a game you need to win, then you better hope that the person who caught the ball finds a way to make the yard to gain, because otherwise you need to. I watch so many teams where they don't do that. They um, they look where the sticks are at and make sure they're past the sticks when they make their plays, and some of those quarterbacks and some of those receivers make it look so easy when I watch other games, and then I look at Iowa and it just looks so hard. Um, but yeah, guys, we're all rooting for the same thing. We want better offense. It looks like Brian's going to still be leading that group, so let's hope that we have better offense. I would like to see us get up around 30 points a game offense, like it was 2 years ago. Well, during the COVID year, it was 30 points. It was 31 points a game during the COVID season, and I know everybody's throwing out the COVID season because nobody thinks the COVID season count. But we did play 10 games. We played 10 games that year. But yes, the offense for the most part and most of the games sucked. Um, Other than that, I don't think I got anything else we want to talk about. I'm not going to talk about any specific recruits too much because it's not clear. We already know who they signed in December. It's not clear to me who actually signed today, who signed in between the two periods, because I believe they said they had 6 or 7 people that actually signed in between the two periods because they were transfer portal people and they could do that and then they enrolled. Um, excuse me. Um, so yeah, maybe we'll get on with Jason and Paul later and at another time when both of us can do it, and we'll talk about all the recruits, who's finally signed, who's coming, and then we'll have more information. Once the coaching staff starts working on their game plan for the season, what their spring practice is going to look like, and then they'll set their spring practice dates, and then they said that they have 2 or 3 more positions they would like to fill, but they're going to kind of wait and see what the May portal looks like, what the portal looks like in May, who's available. They are going to recruit the best available people who they have. All right, guys. That's all I got for now. Um, Please, I just want to ask, if you made it this far, thank you for listening this long. I would just like to ask you guys to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Ask your friends to subscribe. Share the video with them. Um, let's just get this all over. I think we got 219 subscribers on YouTube. My first goal is to get it to 300 and then eventually get it up to 1,000. guys. Can we do that? Can we share it a little bit? It just takes a second to click. Yeah, you want to subscribe. It'll also tell you whenever I go live. You can click it on and see me live. I will send out announcements usually on Facebook when I'm getting ready to go live, so that you guys can, in the approximate time we're going live, so that you guys can look at it. Today I strategically waited until after Kirk's press conference in case there was any big news. I mean, only thing is, the only really big news that came out of this was the fact that Kirk said there's no staff changes, which, honestly, that's not big news. I think there's a few of us really thought that was not going to happen, and so that's the reason why the crickets have been coming out of Iowa City, guys, because nothing's going on, not a thing. All right, guys, until the next time, we'll see how it goes, guys, and thank you for watching, and we do appreciate you. Bye.